Hi, Assalamualaikum everyone. We are from AM226A. We would like to present about climate change. Can our civilization survive?
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Yohanis binti Zulkifli. I am the first presenter. Today I will explain about the introduction of climate change. First of all, what is climate? Climate means the area of the earth that have a specific climatic circumstances. For example, animals migrate to the climate that have a warmer condition. Climate also means the normal weather condition in the area that usually exposed to the wind and also the temperature, such as warm and also humid climate. It also means the usual set of indoor condition of temperature and also the moisture. Climate also can be translated as a dominant influence or an environment condition that portraying the period of a group, such as the atmosphere. Next, what is climate change? The definition of the climate change is huge and lasting term of the change in the condition whether the climate in the earth. The environmental change related to the global warming. According to the National Geographic, climate change is the global change impact on the earth weather and the climate condition. Climate change is not only the temperature increase but it also the change in the weather pattern, the shifting wildlife aquatic habitat and also the rising of sea level and the number of several implications. Three of these changes taking place as they continue to integrate the greenhouse gases emission into the atmosphere. I will explain about the origin of the climate change. It needed nearly a century, a study of evidence to persuade most of the science establishment and the atmosphere of the entire world could be changed by the human activity. In 18th century, the studies indicate that carbon dioxide and other gases emitted by the human increase the people's interest rather than the fear. While in the end of the 1950s, the carbon dioxide level provided with the first proof to verify the concept of global warming, along with the climate modeling and abundance of evidence to show the global warming have a variety serious effects. For instance, in 19th century, the ancient Greek and also the American questioned how the chopping down tree could bring the area more rainfall or even less. Yet, there have been a broader temperature and changes have occurred in their own. In the far past, the finding of the Ice Age showed the climate could drastically change across the entire world, which appear extremely above the something that human being could cause.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Diagnosis Zakrin and I am from the group AM226A. So on the next part is on the issue and the causes of the climate change. The first issue is the excessive burning of the fossil fuel. So as we all know, these excessive burning of fossil fuels are the main causes of the climate change. This excessive burning, they are actually came from the activities of the human, such as the deforestation, the agricultural purposes that cause a huge amount of CO2 and other greenhouse gases that release into the atmosphere. And this burning of fossil fuel, such as the oil and natural gas and coal, are being burned, they will release CO2 gases to the atmosphere, which made the greenhouse gases will become thicker and it will basically make our earth become warmer. Next issue is the deforestation. Deforestation is an activity by the people whereby they cut down trees or they remove the trees in the forest to make something other than the forest. So this includes using timber for the construction or manufacture and also the land for agricultural purposes. So as we all know, trees are very important to us humans as they provide us with the oxygen and they also absorb the CO2 from the atmosphere. So basically when the trees are being cut down, we are no longer enjoy the function of it as the trees are becoming more lesser now. And for the recent years, the tree cover loss has been keep on increasing as time goes by. This is because they want to make an oil palm plantation because the oil palm plantation basically gives us a lot of profit and they also make products with a cheaper production. So basically it is an easy way to boom our economy and also the profit for them without knowing the consequences to our environment because of this deforestation. So on the next issue is the waste disposal. The most common waste management method is by using the landfills, and these landfills basically they releases toxic gas and the greenhouse gases, which it includes methane that release into the waterways and the atmosphere and also to the soil, and it also contributes a high amount of the greenhouse gases. This methane gas emission is actually 21 times more toxic than the CO2. By having a proper waste management, they will probably will improve the quality of the water and air, as well as in reducing the greenhouse gases. So basically, we have to opt for recycling practices, as some of the waste can be recycled and some of them will eventually rot, and it actually contribute a lot of these greenhouse gases. If the waste are being destroyed by having open burning, it basically will cause an air pollution into the air, and it will also cause acid rain. So technically, we should reduce the number of the waste and the food waste that we contribute every day, as it will end up into the landfills and it will basically causes all these gases and all these environment issues that happen around us.
I am Normlati binti Ramlan. Today, I would like to present about the impact of climate change. The linked system between sun, earth and sea, wind, rain and snow, tree, desert and savanna can be described as the global climate change include the human activity. The sequelae of the earth have interrelated to the climate change process. Climate change process is include all around thing in the our earth, because it shows how the environment can be protected or not. When more environment have become degradation, it will increase the climate change process, whether it's the good or the bad situation. So the World Meteorological Organization WMO and the United Nations Environmental have established the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, as known as IPCC, to provide an authoritative source of the scientific knowledge. So in this the publication of fifth assessment report, the IPCC offer more clarification on the role of human activity in the climate change. The causes of the human activity give the impact towards the climate change, which give the effect from the some natural disaster, or like I said before, it can become to the whether natural disaster or the environmental mitigation and adaptation. So we proceed to the impact of the climate change happen in the world. Next, the impact of the climate change is the extreme heat. Extreme heat is always happen around the world. It is one of the climate change process. Why extreme heat happen? It is because a main contributor is human activity such as open burning, deforestation. That is the why extreme heat happening. So the extreme heat from climate change is followed by the month. It's depend when it's usually happen when the month is become a summer month. So when the summer month and people keep doing the human activity, it create more gases in our air surrounding. Okay, so that's why when the extreme heat happen, people small as void the open burning that can create the surrounding become more gases in the air. in our study, since the late of 1800 century, human caused a climate change has warmed the earth average temperature by 1 degree Celsius, which is 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit. The consequences of these climate changes in the extreme heat will affect to the agriculture, because the hotter day will evaporate the moisturizer or the soil gum vitamin that create more easy to the wildfire attack and happen in the crop of the forest. So what I want to highlight here, the disaster become more or worse because the connection of the dry soil sediment can create the huge fire to burn all crop of forest easily with the extreme heat support. This is why when we touch environment will pay back to the human activity in their sector, such as agri-sector sector. They cannot survive when the month of summer and increasing by the extreme heat. The agriculture cannot be planned properly like they use, because the risk to planting the agriculture during the extreme heat, it create the wildfire, and wildfire is happening almost every year, because our climate change, as we know, become worse year by year. So extreme heats on climate change not only create the wildfire, but it give the loss of biodiversity also. That's why when one environmental impact happen, it's become the linked or the change each other to the more environmental degradation, natural disaster. So it's important. We take one case study, which is happened in Australia on 2018, which the wildfire happened because of the extreme heat in the climate change. So it have become the impact on the agriculture sector in near the forest. Also the loss of so many biodiversity, like koala bear, the animal that living in that forest. So Professor Will Stephen said in their article that the nationwide record was also set with on 9 April, Australia is the hottest ever April day because the changes of the high temperature happen. This show the result that we are having the changes of climate change very worse. So we must look how the climate change process is very important to people take care our environment for the future. Next, the impact of climate change is a tropical cyclone. Tropical cyclone have the intensive proof and the massive environment in contribute of the climate change process. Professor Will Stephen have stated in their article that said the rising of the temperature of the ocean give the impact of the strange in the dynamic of the upper atmosphere. In fact, both in terms of overall wind speed and the rainfall is actually associated with the climate change. What we want to say that the linkage of the land, ocean and air with the unstable natural protection can give the bad disaster, which is create the tropical cyclone to the living thing. So what we want to say, the cycle of the climate change is not only happen because of the extreme heat, it also can give because of the instability impact into the nature, which is the side effect is the risk hazard to the proper with the natural disaster risk. Global report also forecast the climate change will increase the occurrence of the extreme tropical cyclones on the category 4 and 5 and reduce the frequency of the weaker tropical cyclone, leading to a possible for the overall reduction in the number of tropical cyclones. This show actually tropical cyclone have the level 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So one of the global report have made a forecast. In our future, the tropical cyclone can leading to the 4 and 5 level, which is become a more disaster, a more or higher risk to the people, because year by year our environment become not feeling good, not well, not having a good or enough natural resources to support the earth, the cycle of the earth is actually. So the result that have been created by one researchers, which is Dr. Ankadin, to overview that our right environment is having a risk impact actually from the climate change. It is because it's come from the ourselves, because human never enough to use our natural resources with the illegal ways. So because the human satisfaction to dominate the nature without thinking the impact of the climate change, it happened the high risk hazard like this. So the climate change also you should know that it give impact to the rainfall of the tropical storm. So when the rainfall tropical storm attack, it create it's linked to the tropical cyclone also. So in our case study, we choose a new attribution analysis from the tropical cyclone happen, show the rainfall of the Hurricane Katrina has arrived between 4 and 9% due to the climate change. It means they are having a more rainfall storm and create the Hurricane Katrina, which is the one history that happened in our world, is popular. Last but not least, the impact of the climate change is touched on the habitat. Climate is the significant environmental factors on habitats. So climate change give the impact on the habitat in the variety of the way. So the climate change is not only directly impact the habitat animals or plant, but also correlate to the other human influence such as the growth, the number of the growth and human. So what we want to touch here is the climate change is the process how the habitat have been disrupted, on the where animal life, how they associate, and the timing of the biological events that could radically transform existing habitat and food change. So when this happen, it create some the risk impact actually to the ecosystem. We want to touch how the process of ecosystem happen during the climate change process and give the impact. So the risk to the ecosystem lifestyle have made the pressure or the forcing to the species to migrate to the higher latitudes or the elevations where the temperature are more conducive to their survive when the sea turn to the warming condition. So what we want to say that when the temperature of the ocean is changes, become more warm, the ecosystem, the habitat ecosystem cannot survive in the higher temperature of which is some species. So they're trying to get the better and comfort places, so they migrate. When the migrate happen, this we want to say the risk that impact to the ecosystem, because they cannot survive well when their area is having the global rise temperature, and when they migrate to the area, another area of the place which is good to them, they might be attacked to the alien species. This is, we want to see how the cycle of the nature have been processed. So some of the species might be good to their migration, but however some of the alien species or others can be harm to other species because equal to domination of the sea area. So this impact of the climate change on the single species can cascade through the food web and influence the wide range of the organism. So that's why we can see for those species can survive to get their own food, it can stay longer, and for those are not, of course they will harm or they attacked by the alien species also. So what we mean to say that climate change give the interruptions to the some species that couldn't survive when the high level of the salt sea and the warm water increase. So we want to say that this also happen because the earth, the cycle or the earth cannot have been a proper cycle, because let's say this disruption is the linkage from the land, air and the ocean. So this rotation will happen during the climate change, whether it's bad or not, and then they are not have the strong support to create the protection, whether in the land, whether in the ocean, even in the air. It will impact to the bad health risk or the losers of the biodiversity.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Fazlin binti Mazlan. So today I will explain on the recommendations on what government measure can do to reduce the climate pattern. So if we avoided releasing greenhouse gases now, global warming would continue to exist. It happens because of the carbon dioxide has been trapped for many years in the atmosphere and remain for more hundreds years. But prevent or restrict any of the worst consequences of climate change might not be too late. So the first is reducing food consumption, where there is a program that initiated by FAO, which is known as Save Food, in order to decrease the amount of food consumption, food loss, and to reduce the waste reduction. So it engaged the businesses, researcher, politics, and civil society, which the aim is to list the food in disposing and developing countries and buyers could prepare transactions wisely. But more significantly is raise and awareness at market level on food losses for the future. It also can reduce the impact on agriculture and fisheries as causes of deforestation and destruction of coastal and marine life. Population can reduce on extracting in natural resource because it leads to the mass production of carbon dioxide. So it can lower the demand in production, and at the same time the greenhouse effect can be reduced due to lower extracting, producing, processing, and transporting, as well as methane gas also be declined because of the lower number of food waste in landfills. So next is transportation, where transportation produces 95% of carbon dioxide that cause greenhouse gas emission. It happens because of the usage of conventional gasoline, diesel by cars that can emit carbon dioxide from the exhaust. To overcome this global issue, communities can use the public transport, such as rail transit. It is because traveling by public transit is consume less energy and generate less energy. Pollution occurs when people drive a private car, which they need to change their behaviors by not depending on conventional petrol or diesel, because it can lead to the climate change phenomenon. Compared to use of public transit, it can reduce the traffic congestion on the road that can produce the smoke in that area, especially when during the red light. So community can use LRT because it uses lower energy per passenger mile compared to the automobile, and it more efficient than buses by reducing 40% of greenhouse gas emission. Instead, what we can do is reducing the water consumption, where we can change our attitude in conserving the planet start from our home by reducing the usage of water supply because it involves the energy to pump, to heat, and to treat our water. We can reduce duration of taking shower, use a mug to brush our teeth instead of turning off the tap during the brushing. So WaterSense is a program that helping the communities to save their water usage by reducing 20% as well as energy saver. Where this program has collaborated with the builder, manufacturer, dealers, state government, and municipalities and water district. So this product also will reduce the energy usage because it reduces the standard amount of usage such as water sense level for shower head. The most standard of shower head is 2.5 gallons of water per minute. But by using this water sense product, it will reduce the standard and it must not exceed 2.0 GPM of water flow. With this initiative is done by other companies where this company has get a validation and certification by United States Environmental Protection Agency, which is they have the quality in order to make sure that the water usage can be reduced. This is our recommendation or suggestion to Malaysia government to implement and enforce in order to combat the climate migration by referring and implementing what have done by other countries. So the first country that we choose is Japan in managing e-waste. Where in Japan, the dealers, suppliers, and importers are required to recycle four particular categories of household appliances, which are air conditioner, televisions, refrigerators, as well as washing machine. When discarding one of these four items, consumer as well as generators need to pay collection charge, transport, and recycling, where customer need to pay over 15 ringgit to up to 200 ringgit for a recycling fee at the time of disposal of each large scale electrical appliance. This initiative have bound under electrical appliance recycling law in 2001. To make it success, there are various actors that must together to make it success, which are consumers, municipalities, producers, as well as recyclers. Consumers, they are made the role to make sure that the e-waste is being disposed in a proper way by sending discarded item to the producers or recyclers. For municipalities, where they can also help the consumer by open session for collecting the e-waste to the retailers, as well as they also must be responsible to collect illegal scrap that has been dumped in open area or closed area. For producer, to collect all the e-waste from the consumers or from retailers to send up to the recycle center for dismantling and sorting process. And recycler must be treat e-waste to by not harm to human and environment. So what government Malaysia can do? Malaysia can start from the small appliances such as smartphones, where all people must be comply with this initiative, which Malaysia can add on the environmental law in disposing e-waste as well as the e-waste consumption procedure, like what have done by Japan. Where in Malaysia, there is a company that handling e-waste, but there is a limited because it placed in one area that known as e-waste recycling through Heroes Earth, that managed by Muhammad Tariq Al-Fatari and Cyberjaya. So Earth also has conducted the freelance to collect the e-waste from customers and also come up with the incentive to those give e-waste to them in order to attract people to recycle. No, but it's still ignored by the society because the lack of awareness on e-waste recycling, which the government need to come out with a law that restrict the discarded of e-waste in proper manner. So, instead of we use the electrical appliances as the first step, it's better we use the small appliances such as smartphones because as we know that most of people have smartphones. The second country that we chose is India, where India has come out with the innovations of edible cutlery to substitute with the plastic cutlery. So plastic has contributed to the climate change by release the heat and toxin that cause the greatest global carbon trap for greenhouse gases. And there are many cases that animal has been choked by the plastic. So one of the researchers of groundwater in India, Naraya, has produced the edible cutlery such as spoon, fork, and chopstick, where it can be eaten after we use it, where the spoon will soften within 10 to 15 minutes. That can be used in every type of meal because it will not be soggy. It also made from the organic stuff such as sorghum, rice, and wheat, which it can save our Mother Earth by reducing 88% of carbon dioxide compared to the plastic cutlery that made by petroleum. From this idea, Malaysia can be more creative and be more innovative to ensure the plastic usage in our daily life will be reduced. Where we can see our surroundings that have full of plastic, which we cannot live without plastic, even though the plastic has caused sick and health problem. And Malaysia has lead in carbon emission on the plastic production with 860 million of tons in 2019, which it shows that Malaysia is a greater pollutant compared to other Southeast Asia countries such as Thailand, Philippines, and Vietnam where Malaysia can call people from the environment, engineering, and science background to create innovation on our product to become more sustainable and eco-friendly. So Malaysia can use this idea as a benchmark to make sure that our own product by using our own resource to produce something that can benefit our society, nature, and earth. The idea edible cutleries also has been used in many countries such as Belgium, they produce the edible food containers. Japan, edible plate and bowl. United States of America, edible cups. So now it is time to Malaysia to shine and come out with the edible product that can save our environment and prevent climate change to happen.
As the conclusion, as we know, the environment is one of the significant value to our life. Human are the contribution of the changes on the climate. So when the natural disaster risk happen, this is because the human intervention doesn't realize that our environment become a critically day by day. The changing of trends of the severe weather and the longer of the hotter heat wave to the heavier rain across the world is happened because the title of the climate change process actually. So the people will keep researching how the climate change happen, how the climate change process and progress. But the main view for the answer for our climate change is still on developing their rotation on how human use, consume and control in using in the natural. So becoming the responsibility human, we need to change our environment, we need to protect, we keep aware about our environment, change it to the disaster to the good and more better one, because we have the future generation which want still to use our environment with a good and safe like we use right now. Even it become a disaster, but we itself must change it. So in this case, uh, as environment student actually, we need to support every awareness or every program that implement by all agency to make sure our climate change can be combat with in the good way. So that's all from us. Thank you very much.